Why, hello, Lauren.
Hello, Nat.
I just realized also that I have not been introducing us
That's all
this
right.
whole time. Have you noticed that? So if you've been listening to a bunch of podcasts and you're like, who are those people? I'm Nat. Hopefully you know me. I don't know how you don't know Lauren, but Miss Lauren Oak is a postpartum doula and a birth doula as well. She is a mother of, 19, 20 kids. How many do you have? 4? That's enough. And then because she decided to have a baby when she was a baby herself, she has 2 grandkids, boys. So she had all girls. And now it seems the first daughter is just having boys. That's nice. I'm curious to see what the other girls.
It'll be a while, but we'll see.
It will be great. But she is one of my really serious best friends. Like if she needed a kidney, I would help her find one.
Yeah.
That's where we are in that. Because I don't think mine would be good enough.
Yeah, mine wouldn't be good either.
That's it. I think it's done. Too many UTIs in my life. It's had a seep up in there. No bueno. But I'll help you. I'll make a nice Canva graphic.
Yeah.
Is the least I could do. But yeah, for real, me and Lauren have been friends for a lifetime and maybe previous lifetimes. I don't know. And I'm sure that you guys in listening land, you have people that you just meet and you're just like, that's it. Like there's no choice. Like I don't have a choice but to be friends with Lauren anymore. I can't get it long enough away from her to try to dissolve this relationship. She keeps coming back. And then I do the same exact thing.
Get rid of me.
Yeah, I can't. But I do the same thing. Like if I don't hear from you long enough, I start to be like, what happened? Where is everybody?
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, so that is who my Lauren is. And we have been doing these intros to podcasts, I don't know, for the last 417 episodes. Honestly, I think we're almost over 200 episodes, or maybe we are. But all I know is we're close to 1 million listens. Could you believe that?
A lot.
That's what I said. But if you ask my husband, and if I said how many we've had, he'll say, oh, I don't know, 12,000. I'll be like, thanks, babe. Thanks, honey. I love you. I'm really excited for you to meet today's guest. Okay, so we're going to talk to Nicole. Now, Nicole is #twin mom, right? She is currently in Japan.
Okay.
Which is where her husband is stationed. So she's a military mama. She's been all over the place.
I'm sure.
But she is very open about talking about how she did not want twins.
Oh.
She had IVF. They did a single embryo transfer specifically because she did not want to roll the dice on twinnies. And that little embryo split.
That happens. I know so many people that has happened to.
Holy smoke. But I really didn't want twins either, for the record. I did have a double embryo transfer, but that was only because the odds were so against me that I only had 2 embryos, by the way, that made it. And yes, I'm an IVF mom. And yes, if you are too, welcome to the club. And if you want to be like, oh, she's not a real twin mom, she had IVF, I don't give a crap anymore. I'm over that. For a long time, I thought I was a Fugazi twin mom. I don't think people use that word, not in New York or Long Island or Manhattan, but we do. But she wanted 1 baby, and we talk about this whole planning and how did you prepare and when did you start to accept it? And now that they're here, what do you think about the way that you thought? So you had your singleton.
Yes.
And then when you got pregnant with the twinnies, when you found out, were you really aiming for 1 or did you just want whatever happened?
I was in denial that I would even get pregnant with 1 because we started with fertility stuff. We only did the IUI, but I was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And 1 round and we got twins. Dan almost had a heart attack. Dan was like,
was he a great twin dad, when they were home, right? So maybe delivery day, not so great, right? So as we all know, and it's a different story for a different day, but how long did it take for him to kind of get his twin girl sea legs of being a dad?
Immediately. He was very hands-on, changing diapers and holding them and feeding them and stuff, basically because he had to. it was a lot to juggle. But he has a lot of energy, so he kind of needed it to.
Yes.
Good. It was a way of him to burn his energy.
When you had Molly, so when you had your next singleton, did he like not know what to do with himself because it was only one baby?
No, he took the twins off my hands a lot, especially on the weekends, so that I would just have the baby. He'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the Bronx Zoo for the day, or we're gonna go to the park, or we're gonna go do this." He would like pack them up and go do something with them, so that I'd have less kids in my face. And because he always needs to be doing something, so it was kind of good.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was like his own little nursery school that he would take on field trips.
Yeah, like he would just like I would be like, "See you later, bye, have fun," and then like
Aw.
I'd be just dealing with the baby.
Oh my gosh. But honestly, this chick Nicole is, I'm going to tell you a secret about this.
Okay.
After I got finished the podcast, I ended up speaking to her probably for like 45 minutes, just her and I,
Oh.
just literally talking about so many things. And let's just say that this podcast isn't going to be the last that you hear from her at Twiniversity.
Okay.
First time in podcast history.
It'll be a second podcast.
Even better than that. There might be something even more involved. So stay tuned for that. But it's so exciting because I loved her perspective, and she was so genuine and natural and honest. And you can't expect anything more from somebody than just wear your heart on your sleeve, tell it like it is, don't pull any punches. Really, it's going to be a great one. I can't wait anymore. You got to meet her. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, because there's more to the story, but you're going to have to listen. So here she is, Nicole. Why, welcome, Nicole. Welcome to this glorious morning, evening. I don't know what time of the day it is, but yeah, welcome from New York. Where are you calling us from today?
Thank you for having me. I'm in Japan.
I love that. Isn't that amazing? What would we do, excuse me, without technology? Seriously.
It is crazy. I have to keep like a thing on my phone that has all the different time zones that my friends and family live in, so I can quickly like see what time it is.
Now you've moved a bunch since the kiddies have been here. So do you still keep in contact with people from all of your previous locations?
Yes, I have people everywhere.
How do you manage that? Like, how do you manage, like, let's have a Zoom cocktail party? Like, does everybody know what time it is by you now?
No, definitely not. But like I mute my phone when I'm asleep so that no one can contact me when I'm actually sleeping. But I have a couple group chats of like some friends I made in Italy. Not all of them are in Italy now. I think only 2 of them are. And then one's in Hawaii, one's in Colorado, California. They're everywhere. So
my gosh. All right. Well, the good news is that you're one of us, so we'll put you under our little mama bird wings. And I'm so glad that the timing worked out. But yesterday, like when you emailed me, honestly, I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know. I'd rely on Google to know what time it is by you.
I just wanted to make sure everything was like still happening because I was
absolutely
getting prepped for it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hopefully there's not too much prep necessary because
but truth be told, I'm a little bit nervous. So
oh, absolutely not. By the end of this, you're going to be like, I don't know why the common thread with all our podcast guests are, I don't know why I was nervous. And I'm like, I don't know either. It's literally just us hanging out. So, but I really love that you guys let me pick your brains. And it's so, first of all, truthfully, I think I'm our best listener because I like when everybody applies, we like go through and I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that. Like, it's so interesting because although, yes, you think we're all raising our 2 and it doesn't matter whether you're in Japan, in New York, in California, there's still a lot of logistics that are the same. But today, what I really want to kind of dig into is something seriously, like, honestly, Nicole, there's so many families that feel the way that you do that ended up really only wanting one. Yeah. And then getting surprised with that second heartbeat. So walk us through a little bit of like your pre-pregnancy journey and your thoughts about, parenthood in general. And give us the behind the music scoop.
Sure. My husband and I got married in 2007. We tried to have a kid almost right out of the bat, and it wasn't working. After a couple of years, we got a little concerned, but our insurance didn't cover any fertility diagnostic stuff. much less any of the actual treatment. So in 2014, my husband joined the Navy, and the military's insurance, TRICARE, actually does cover a
Wow.
lot of the diagnostic tests and stuff. So we were able to get them finally. Unfortunately, we found out we had male factor, and that doesn't have like a lot of wiggle room for what can be done about it. So that we were recommended to go straight to IVF. So in California, that's what we did. It cost us an arm and a leg. And I only transferred one embryo because I like desperately, I did not want twins. I was like, no, I don't want to risk having twins. And I know this is going to sound completely absurd and totally made up, but 3 days after my transfer, I had a dream where I like saw an embryo split an implant. And I woke up, and my husband's deployed at this point, and I have like the screenshots to prove it. Like I messaged him immediately and was like, oh my God, I just had this crazy dream that the embryo split and we'd have twins. And my husband's like, can that even happen? I was like, yes, that's how you get identical twins. So from that 3 days forward, I was like, and I managed to get a positive pregnancy test that evening. So I was like, oh no, like I hope this isn't the case. And so I finally went in for my, I guess, 5-week ultrasound at my RE's office. And I was getting the ultrasound by the ultrasound tech, and I had my head turned. I refused to look at the screen. And my doctor walks in and just goes, huh. And I was like, don't tell me there are 2 in there. And he's like, there are 2 in there. And I was like, oh, and then I started like giggling uncontrollably. Like I was freaking out. And like, I immediately text my husband, like he's on the boat, and I tell him like, it's twins. He's like, what? And then I just put my phone down. So I didn't say anything more to him for a little while. And then like my RE talked to me because I wanted to have like a vaginal birth. I was really looking forward to like having a water birth and all that. And I knew that like wasn't going to happen. And my RE was like, I doubt you'll get even a vaginal birth. Like I doubt that very seriously. And that like something in me just like cracked. And like I went to my car and just started crying. I was like, I didn't know, like I was so overwhelmed by everything that comes with having 2 babies instead of 1. And like messaging my husband, and I'm freaking out, and he can tell even over text that I'm freaking out. And his chief was like really nice and let him use the shop satellite phone to give me a call. And he called me, and I'm just crying, and like, he managed to calm me down. But it definitely took like a couple of months before I'd really come to terms with the fact that I was having 2 children. It was rough.
I could imagine. And then going through that solo. So that's even rougher. How long was it till you and your husband were able to reunite?
He came back during I want to say like the end of my 2nd trimester.
Okay.
So he did manage to get there for the birth and all of that, which is what we wanted. Like we actually timed it so that he definitely wouldn't be deployed during the birth. So yeah, that was great. I went to San Diego and met him. And we have a very cute picture of us meeting for the first time. I have a little baby bump because I started showing like immediately, like immediately.
It's, there's so many families that do, honestly, like you, and I don't think that we talk about it enough, that it's fairly normal that people have like premonitions, right? That you have like, oh, this is what's happening. And we all talk ourselves out of it because I don't know, maybe everybody has premonitions and only 3% of those actually come to fruition. Who the heck knows? But that's a lot to take in, especially solo, and especially to go through something where you're like, no, this is it. We just want the one. Let's call it a day. And then, of course, having an identical pregnancy, there's always a little bit more risk involved with that. So there's the added stress onto that. You said that you went for your 5-day ultrasound. Did they do any
5-week
work? 5 weeks, sorry. Did they do any blood work previous?
They did. Yeah, they did. I had like I guess what are they called? Like beta tests.
Yeah.
Like my blood tests done. I had 2 or 3 of those. I can't remember, just to make sure my numbers were rising.
Yeah.
So
did they tell you that like, oh crap, like there's the numbers?
It was a big number.
Okay.
It was a big number. But I know that like, I mean, I've heard like this and that about it being, twins if it's high, but
you also don't know if both are going to stay for the whole time. So like, even though your numbers in the beginning may rise and double and triple and quadruple, that doesn't mean that it's going to be the real deal. So when you had this dream for the 5 weeks that you were kind of like, we don't know, nothing's positive, did you even try to wrap your brain around that, or did you really just dismiss the dream and just be like, nope, nope, I'm gonna, put it, manifest the singleton?
Yeah. I mean, I joked about it all the time. I was like, what if it is? Like,
Yeah.
I had a couple of friends that I told about my pregnancy like that early on. I had to have like a couple people knowing what was going on so that I could,
Absolutely. You need
have
support.
that. Yeah, exactly. That support system. So a couple people knew, and one of my friends just kept like laughing at me because my baby A's middle name is my grandmother's name, and that's June. My husband's grandmother's name is Dicey. And so my friend would always be like, Dicey lives. And I was like, no, stop. Like, it's not going to be twins. Please don't. But yeah.
When you told her that it was twins, what was she like? I told you so.
Pretty much, yeah. She was like, obviously, like, of course your dream came true. Like, of course that was absolutely going to happen to you. I felt like through the whole like infertility process, you feel so like out of control of the situation. So like IVF, I felt like very in control. I was in control of like how like my eggs and the day of my transfer and when that would, correlate to birth and all of that stuff. So and I chose the sex of my baby. I'm a carrier for Fragile X syndrome, which affects males the most. I couldn't afford the extra like testing that was needed for that after testing for the chromosomal abnormalities. So I put in just one female embryo. I had a name picked out and everything. It took me weeks to figure out another name for the second baby.
So when you do get that, you see the second heartbeat and you have kind of the shock of it all. What was your like initial approach? Did you say like, oh, maybe this won't, come out to be at the end, or did you know like this is going to stick, like your original premonition?
I knew. I was like, this is definitely going to happen, because like it was the universe being like, haha, I've got jokes on you. So like I knew, like my entire pregnancy, I was not worried about a single thing. I know a lot of people worry about their twin pregnancies all through pregnancy, but no, I was like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out. They're going to be healthy. They're going to be perfect, and it's just going to happen because it's not what I wanted. So it's going to be perfect. I mean, of course, now I wouldn't change it for the world, but like then I was just like, nah, this is going to happen. Because even my REs, like there's like almost a 40% chance you could lose one of them. Yeah. And I was just like, it's not going to happen. They're going to be fine.
Do you ever play the game, if there was one, which one would it have been?
No, not really. I remember like when they were really young, like babies, we'd be like, oh my God, could you imagine if it was only one baby? Because it was so hard. Our newborn stage was horrific. They both had colic. It was just bad. I exclusively breastfed them. Like it was just, I was like, the whole time. I had this really beautiful picture of me postpartum. I guess I was like maybe 3-4 days, and it was after like a really long night of them cluster feeding, and everything is just bleeding and I am in so much pain. But there's this picture of me like putting on a half smile while I'm nursing both of them, and I remember like when that moment that picture was taken, because I remember as soon as he took it, I was just like, like it's just like tears rolling down because it hurt, and I was like,
oh, mama. How long do you think it really took you to like settle into it and start like really getting ready and preparing? So like, with, and I really mean emotionally, right? Because of course we have to have the stuff, and you have to be able to have the equipment and stuff that you need. So there is some of that, but just because you have the stuff in the house doesn't mean that you're ready. And in all sincerity, Nicole, I don't think a lot of people are ready, but when you're in a mindset of going through a fertility experience and being like one baby. So like, I don't know if you know, or if the listeners know, but that was very much my experience. Like I had these thoughts of like going to like the Metropolitan Museum with my one baby in a carrier and being like, baby, look at this, beautiful Monet or whatever it is. And then when they like our numbers were doubling, I was just so happy to be pregnant. But then once they saw that second heartbeat, my husband's first words literally out of his mouth was, we have to move, because we live in a tiny New York City apartment. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like at that same time, I have like, okay, I have to deal with, these two heartbeats. And then I have now the husband who's like, we have to go, which the weird thing about moving is I have never moved. That's like the insider joke in our family. I've lived in this building since pretty much birth. And my family's been here since 1872. So like legit, we don't move. So now I'm like, crap, now I got to move. Now I got to do this. And it was honestly a little traumatizing. And there was definitely a minute that I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I wanted the one baby. Like, what the heck is happening? Did you feel you kind of got like a raw deal when
I mean,
you?
part of like the part that was probably the hardest for me was that like no one asks a singleton parent if they've had IVF, if they've had any
Truth.
assistance in getting pregnant. No one asked that. So I was really looking forward to just being like, this is behind me. I have a child. No one's ever going to ask me about this. And like, even though I'm very open about it, I still don't want strangers asking me about it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
that happens all the time.
Of
Like, I mean,
course.
even if
Yeah.
it's like, half veiled and like, oh, do twins run in your family? Like,
And you're
so
like, no,
that
they
was
run.
a
They
bit
run through my
annoying.
living room. That's where they
Yeah,
run.
exactly.
That's where they are. That it's
Exactly.
really true. And I never really thought about the blending thing. But yeah, I think most twin families, I'd be curious to know if any twin families didn't have somebody ask. I think that
Yeah.
would
Oh
be
no.
weird.
I mean,
Everybody just assumes.
yeah. I would
But
assume like that's what everyone asks, like perfect strangers.
I can't stand the audacity of that. Like
Yeah.
that really, I think for like the first year, I was still like under a rock. So I was like nice and I would either say yes or no, depending on if I felt like discussing it. But
Yeah.
then I remember that I like really like as the kids got bigger, I got really aggravated about it. And so my response would be, are you having fertility problems?
Yeah. Yeah. I have definitely asked that before. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, like are
do you
you
need help?
talking
Do
about
you
this for
need me to like give you
research?
advice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what like where are we going with this? And then here too, living in this thriving metropolis, like you can't get away. Like
Yeah.
if I'm walking down a street, it's like a freaking sideshow. When you had your 20s and you were walking down the street and all that, when how long did it take you to say like okay, this is really happening? Like was it a weird transition or by the time they were here you settled into the idea?
I mean, by the time they were here, I had pretty much been like, okay, this is happening. Around the viability mark, I was like, okay, well, this is actually happening. So I better like just buck up. So
And then how has it been with moving all over the place? Like with your 20s, I mean, it's difficult enough to move. And weirdly, I'm going to tell you, we have quite a few military families this season on the
Mhm.
podcast, which is
Oh
really,
yeah.
really exciting. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you once you join the military, if you have a higher incidence of twinning. It's what I feel like I'm not going to have to do my own secret
Something in the water.
yeah, I'm gonna have to do my own research on
Yeah.
this. I know something happened with the water in Camp Lejeune, but I think
Yeah.
that's
Right.
about all. But yeah, it's moving and having to deal with the solo aspect and the where are we going next? How has that been since you've given
Um,
birth?
like moving from California to Florida, that was our first move with them, and they were only 7 months old, and I was still breastfeeding.
Mm,
And so we drove cross country. My
wow.
husband drove like a Penske truck, and I drove in our little Prius with our little pug and cat and twins.
Wow.
And I'd have to stop every 2 hours or so at like rest stops, gas stations, whatever, to like my husband would go around, get him out of the car seats, bring him to me. So that took forever. That was like the longest, hardest
I
move
could
I think
imagine.
we ever took. Moving overseas wasn't too bad. They actually did really great on the plane. They still do. They're well traveled. They've been to many, many countries. Especially when we were in Italy, it was my husband's like shore duty, so he's not
Mm.
deployable. So he was home all the time. So we were able to travel and see other places, and they are really good travelers. I got to give them that. So
How old are they now?
7. They just turned 7 in November. Mhm.
Oh, that's the best. This is
Yeah,
the
they talk about
most fun
like the
age.
Eiffel Tower was their favorite. Like they love Paris. They talk about it all the time. I'm like, maybe we'll go back there one day. I hope so.
Oh my gosh. That's so exciting. Do you meet up with other twin moms on the bases or do you find that I find that in the United States I find them. Like
Yeah.
whether I'm looking for twin families, usually I'm not. And I could either be sitting next to somebody on a plane and either they see like the Twiniversity sticker on my laptop or something and then
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell are the odds of that? Do you
Yeah.
find that even internationally you're like bumping into twin families?
Um, I'm trying to like, not really. In Italy, there was one other set of twins on our base. She had little girls that were, I think, a year older than mine. Sometimes she would give me her hand-me-downs. Thank you. Um,
Perfect.
here, at this base, I think there are like a lot of twins here, like at least
Yeah.
3 or 4 sets, not including my own that I know of. I don't really know them.
I've
All their
definitely
twins are
done another
younger.
podcast with somebody on your base. Like I know as fact. I
Oh, I'm
have to
sure.
now go back and look because that may not have been the topic.
Yeah.
So like if it may not have been like public information, but I know like 1,000,000% that I've played
Yeah.
this game before. And that's
Yeah.
so exciting. And when you met your husband, right, and you were going through all of this, and once he joined the military, how was even, and I know this has nothing to do with twins, but how was that transition for you just as a partner?
It was rough. I mean, we had been together for 7 years before he joined. Like we had been married 7 years before he joined, and together for like 2 more before that. So it was very like we had never, like everyone in our family stays in the same place. Like you stay in the same building, our families
Mhm.
stay in the same area. Generations of us have been in the same area, and we were the first to really like move away.
Mhm.
And I mean, we were ready for like a new adventure. We kind of we were done. We were both worked in the restaurant industry. He was a chef and I was like a waitress and bartender, and occasionally a beer cart girl on the golf course. So like we had a lot of fun doing it, but it just got to be like too much. I don't know if you've ever worked in that kind of environment, but it can get a little rough after a while. So we were both like, we got to do something. Like you need a career. So
Yeah.
one night randomly, he's like, I've been thinking about joining the Navy. What do you think? And I was like, I don't know, we got to think about this. And we both agreed it was the right thing. And I went to like all of his like meetings at the recruiter's office. He would
Okay.
have to go like weekly until he left for boot. So I would always go to with him to those. And I was trying my best to be
Yeah.
prepared, but I don't think anything really prepares you for
No.
it. It was rough. It's gotten a lot, like I wouldn't say easier, but I'm much more used to like him being gone now. Like it still sucks just as bad as it did the
Yeah.
first time, but I'm able to like be like, okay, this is happening. This is what's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
get a real routine down.
How do the girls handle that? Like, what's the preparation that you guys have to go through, like, before he's gone again?
They actually, they actually do really great. We have a little countdown where we count down the days, and every morning they come down in the morning before breakfast and flip it to the next day. And like, but they're really resilient. I think a lot of it has to do with them having each other. Like,
Yes.
when I weaned them finally, like they were 2.5 years old.
Good for
My
you.
husband was having training in California and we were visiting family in Virginia. So I left the twins with his parents for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
they did not care. They did not care that, that we were gone. They had each other. So, and it's the same. It always has been. Like they don't wake me up when they have a nightmare or something
Oh.
like that. They wake each other up. Like they'll tell me about it the next day. They'll be like,
Oh.
"Oh yeah, I had this bad dream." I was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And like, "Oh, I woke up sissy and I got in her bed with her." And I'm just like, "Okay, all right, fine."
Oh my
Guess
gosh.
I'm not worthy.
That's
But
so
yeah,
sad and wonderful at the same
yeah,
time.
I'm very happy that they have each other. I think it would be a lot harder when he is
Yeah.
gone for them if they didn't have each other to kind of work through it. You can definitely see a little bit of like personality change. They get a little grumpy sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like
Yeah.
me too. Actually, right after he left for the first time after moving to Japan, I guess they were 5 or 6, five, I think. I was giving them a bath and I was just frustrated. Like they were standing up or splashing or something. And I just was like, guys, stop or something like that. And one of them looked at me and she's like, it must be really hard to be a parent on your own. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about, child? Like, how do you? But I was like, yeah, it is. That's why you gotta, help me out when daddy's not here. But I was like, you should not be having these thoughts. So
Oh, those are the type of girls you raise, though. That
yeah,
says a
yeah,
lot about you, though. Like anything that your kids are, like, yes, our kids are magnificent. This is true. We got
yeah.
this. But there is so much of us in our kids that the reason why they are either so empathetic or whatever it is, I really want to focus on the good things.
I was gonna say eye rolls.
Yes. Like we have, and I try to say in class, I try to always remind people to really watch what you call your partner, because that's what the kids are going to end up calling your partner one day
Yeah,
in anger or spite or
yeah.
whatever it is. So like they're always have their little ears listening, but it's the same thing for all the good stuff and the stuff that
Mhm.
you pick up. And I think that by moving around and for the kids being just really exposed to all these cultures, they're going to be such fascinating women.
Yeah. I mean, like, I wish I had that opportunity as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's what, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, the poor military kids. I'm like, yeah, yeah, they do miss their daddy. They don't have as much time with him as I'd like them to. But they've also gotten to see some really cool things that, like, I didn't
Yeah.
see until I was an adult, until with
Yes.
them,
But not only
So,
see, like, like live and
oh,
experience.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
The
like one
culture.
thing, like, oh, let's go to Japan for a week and you
Yeah.
take your kids someplace. Like, it's totally different. Like, they
Yeah.
are fully immersed. Do they go to school on base, or
They
how
do.
much
They go to
off
school.
base stuff do you have? Like, how off the base do you guys get with each other? Do you go to movies? Like, I know this is so basic 101 stuff, but it's just fascinating for any expats that live anywhere. I
Yeah.
always wonder, like, how much are you getting kind of out there, and how much are the kids really drinking in?
Yeah, I mean, they've gone to like some hikes and stuff. Like, they've seen, we have like this big bridge by our base called the Kentai Bridge, and it's beautiful during like cherry blossom season. So I've like taken them there. We go to a lot of parks. The Japanese really know how to make parks, like children's parks, like some of the
Wow.
coolest parks I've ever seen, and they love those. And then of course we like take them shopping, and like sushi is one of their favorite things to go out and eat with me. So yeah, so we do a lot of that, a lot of eating and a lot of shopping and a lot of parks.
And
But
then what about the languages? Like, do they pick up Italian? Are they picking up Japanese? How has that been? Because they're little sponges still.
yeah, they in their school, they have like once a week, like cultural class, or I don't know exactly what they call it, but where they learn like certain words. They don't really, I don't know, they get embarrassed easily, I suppose. Like, they feel like they're going to say something wrong or something. So they don't pick up much of the language. In Italy, they were really young, and
Mhm.
we didn't speak it well. And we were trying, and we started picking it up, and then the pandemic hit, and that
Mm.
took like a year from us, and everybody started wearing masks. And I am one of those people that like needs to see your face in order to like really understand what you're trying to tell me. Like, I need to see your emotions.
Yeah.
So like, it was so difficult after that to even try to pick it up like naturally. So
Ugh. So just going back to the singleton versus twinnies, because I feel like I want to talk about everything else, but I know that the people that are clicking on this episode are like, Nat, could you get back to that? If you are speaking to another mother that was in your situation, like, what advice could you give them? Like, how could they settle into the idea of the maybe two and not be so traumatized when
I mean, I think like
feels
the
something?
only thing there really is to say is like all the good that comes from it. Like, just like watching things that no singleton parent could ever experience, just watching them like grow together, and like the weird bonds and the cool things that they do together, that you're just like, what? Like, I mean, just they were really competitive, like not really competitive, but like walking. Like, one took their first steps at 9 months, and then the next day the other one was like, oh, I can do that too. It was the same with crawling, like words and just everything. Like, potty training was relatively easy, even with two babies, because they were taking cues from each other. They were doing
Mhm.
it together, so that helped a lot. And then just like looking at the baby monitor and seeing them like get up from a nap and go over to their sister and like rub their head and stuff, and you're just like,
Yes.
okay. Like, that's the
Aw.
cutest thing I've ever seen. So
Aw. Were they in the same crib?
no, we were safe sleep people, so they had their own cribs. But once they climbed out of their crib, one of
Yeah.
them climbed out of their crib at 15 months.
Mm.
So I had to lower them to be toddler beds, and then they get up, and yeah, it was it was rough. That transition was rough because they were like, freedom.
Yeah. Oh
So
my gosh.
we had to
Yes.
like do a different kind of sleep training at that point to get them to like go to sleep, like stop playing together, go to sleep.
It's
So
literally a slumber party every night. It really is.
mhm.
I mean, they can control themselves. I can't imagine. I mean, sometimes when my husband and I go to sleep, he says I get the zoomies when I'm just like, "Ba, ba, 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 ba," and he's like, we've been together for 3 hours on the
I've heard
couch.
this.
Why are you
Yeah,
talking now? But it's
yeah,
that whole like settle in, and then your brain starts to settle and you got to chat. So your twinnies are just, they're getting the verbal zoomies, and they just want
yeah,
to snuggle each other.
yeah.
What?
They're really good now. They sleep really well. They're
Oh,
like A+ sleepers, and I'm proud of them for that.
well, especially you don't even know if they are, because they're waking up their sibling if they're
Oh
having a
yeah,
bad
well,
night. So we don't even know whether
exactly right. Well, they're not bothering me, so
that's all that we need.
fantastic.
That's that. Oh my gosh. So thinking about that IVF and all that feeling that you had of kind of animosity of having the two, what do you say to that person? What do you say to that person that was initially like, crap, what am I going to do? What do you say to her?
Other than like, I feel ya, like it'll come, it'll
Yeah.
eventually, you'll get there where you'll settle in, you'll be like, this is happening, and you'll you'll not
Oh,
want it any different in the end. That's pretty much all there
truth.
is to say. It's
Truth.
just,
Do the girlies know they're IVF babies?
yeah. We actually, I made him a little book on one of the photo print apps or whatever, where it just goes through our story in children terms
Yeah.
of our whole IVF experience. I have no reason to hide it from him. So
Yeah, my
they just,
kids are they know. And it that also comes up a lot. Like, do you tell the kids? I've always told my kids. So
yeah,
from the beginning, we used to pass by the IVF clinic going to the zoo. And so I
yeah,
would be like, that's where the doctors made you. And like, there you go. Like, that's it.
yeah,
And then, it backfired on me with the whole thing of my daughter thinking that she was going to have superpowers and murder her kindergarten classmates. But that's, an X-Men situation. But it happens. What are you going to do? But it's so fascinating because I think a lot of people like you and me are existing within the world. And twins were never really even on the radar. Like when you
yeah,
want one, when you just want to be a parent, nobody thinks their initial parenting experience is going to be two.
yeah,
We're all just
yeah,
like that single baby in the carrier looking at the Monet. Like that's what you think of as
yeah,
like the typical parenting experience. And
yeah,
then we get kind of this whirlwind, hurricane, tornado, tsunami combo that
yeah.
is that second heartbeat. It's really fascinating, but I'm hoping that Twiniversity has made it a little bit more normal. Like
Yeah, I've been
when did
following
you
you
find
guys.
us? Yeah, like how did that
Um,
even happen?
I mean, I think it happened. I think I found you guys like before I even gave birth. Like I found you like during pregnancy. And I remember like reading all your articles and stuff. Like,
Thank goodness.
I mean, I've been
I'm telling you.
commenting on those Facebook posts for
Perfect.
years. So
Perfect. Please defend us when people start coming at us with anything. We just had an article go up yesterday and everybody's got their pitchforks and torches. And I'm like, calm down, everybody. It's just what we have to deal with. But our
yeah,
job is to give people options. Not everybody likes the options, but that's our goal is at Twiniversity to let everybody know all the choices that they have as a twin parent. We're
mhm,
certainly never telling anybody what's right or wrong. We just want you
yeah,
to know that it exists. But girl, they come out of the woodwork and they just come get us. And me and my team, we're just beaten
you're
down
wrong. And
today.
here's why I think why.
Exactly. And we're like, guys, we never said we were right. I don't know if you missed that whole first paragraph. We don't know about that. But I'm so glad that you did find us. And I really was trying to make a home where it was normal, right? For
Mhm.
those people that are like us, that are like, crap, this is not what I expected.
Yeah, it can be really
Yeah.
overwhelming for sure. I mean,
How did you deal with the disappointment of delivery? Like, did you end up having a vaginal delivery? Did you
I did.
what happened? And then how do you now, right? Because this is definitely another thing that I want to pick your brain on. People, when they find out that they're having twins, they automatically assume it's going to be a C-section and that's that. And they kind of throw their hands up to the medical community and be like, do what you got to do. We all just want to live. Of course, we all want to live. That's a
Of course.
given, guys.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Like
that's
if the process to getting there could be a little bit smoother.
yeah,
Like,
like that's like, yes, of course. If the baseline is we're all going to live, what are the extra things that you want? What did you do to get the delivery that
hmm.
you wanted?
I had originally I had an OB that I really liked. He was nice. I kept asking him like what would happen because he was okay with vaginal birth of twins. And I was like, okay, but what happens if baby B is breech?
Mhm.
It's like, tell me what happens then. And he's like, oh, we'll talk about it when you get there. You might not even make it like that far. And I was like, that seems like a weird response. So
Mhm.
every appointment I kept asking. And finally I made it to like 27 weeks. And I was like, so what happens if he's like, oh, well, if it flips during labor and we don't catch it, then you'll have a vaginal and a C-section. And I was like, excuse me? He was like, yeah, no, if I know that it's breech, then you won't have one at all. And I was like, what? So I fired him.
Good. Good
And
for
I
you.
found another doctor who was comfortable with a breech baby B. And I'm so glad I did because they were both head down when I went into labor and baby B flipped right before she came out and she was footling breech. So he was a fantastic OB. He was so
Who
good.
was that? Please shout it out to the universe. I
His
beg
name
you.
is Dr. Cole, I do believe.
It's been a minute. Yes.
It's been a minute.
But not every doctor. I mean, most doctors won't deliver a breech baby B. We find a few every now and then, and everybody's like so hesitant. I'm like, no, tell the world who this is, because why are we reinventing the wheel? If we know that Dr. Cole is great, let's go to Dr. Cole.
Yeah, he's in Ventura County, California.
Perfect.
He was fantastic. And he has kind of a weird bedside manner. Like I was a little like unimpressed because I'd seen him like before I even got pregnant for like just a visit, because one of my friends was like, he's a great doctor, you should go see him. And I was like, I did not like his bedside manner. That was weird. And I never saw him again. But then when I needed a new OB, I talked to my friend. She's like, really, he is really great. I was like, okay, I'll give him a try. Because she had went through a pregnancy where she gave birth really prematurely and her child didn't make it. And she said that Dr. Cole was like the best thing that could have happened. She actually had another,
that's great.
2 more children after that with him. And the last one, she got her tubes tied during it, but Dr. Cole and her husband and her all had a glass of champagne together to like mark the end of her. So I was like, yeah, all right, like
that's really nice. So that's like an undercover grade bedside manner.
Yeah, exactly. It was like in the moment, he was fantastic. Like it was a little weird. Sure, all my appointments were a little weird, but like, but in the moment, he was all the best I could ask for. So
I hope you've left him a good review on like health grades and stuff like that.
Not sure I did.
Well, even this many years later, I would strongly recommend it, because I don't think that even doctors hear great stuff enough. They might hear it directly, but when we're looking for good OBs and we're looking for anybody, a good freaking endocrinologist, it doesn't even matter. But it's so nice to be like, listen, he doesn't come off the warmest, but just know he's got your back and you're going to have an extraordinary experience. Like that's it. That's all that the review has to say. I find that like those are the best reviews that I prefer, because then I'm like, okay, I'm prepared to going into
you know what to expect when you walk in there. Absolutely.
Not going to be glamorous. Ultimately I'm going to have a good time. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm so happy that you had the nerve to do that. And a lot of moms are like, no, this is it. This is the doctor. This is the hospital. This is what I'm doing. What was the piece that was like, nope, not happening? Was it always that way?
I just really didn't want a C-section. I knew that the recovery time for those can be really rough. I know some people have them and are perfectly fine, but I was like, I want this much control over my pregnancy. Everything had been so out of my control and it just kept like spiraling. So I was like, I've got to at least try for this as best I can. And I'm so glad I did, because my recovery was a breeze. Like I felt fantastic afterwards. I tell my husband all the time, like, the weight of the babies was gone and the placenta and all that stuff was gone. And I felt like I could like run a mile. I was just like, yes.
It is. It's like a little weird, happy prison that like your body forces you into, especially for the moms that, bed rest is, people don't know, am I going on bed rest? Am I not? But regardless, if you can't move, you're on bed rest, right? Like you're just putting yourself on that, and it gets to be so heavy. What week did you make it to?
38.
Girl.
38 plus 2.
With IDs, that's the jam, man. Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Everyone kept telling me like, oh, you're going to have to prepare for NICU time. You're going to have to do this. I was like, no, man, I know this is going to work out. Like, I just know it is. Like, it's going to be fine.
I'm so impressed with your ability to kind of stay focused. That's great.
Yeah. Ooh, I love like all belly.
How tall are you?
5'6".
5'6". All right. I was going to say, I feel like my tinier mamas, like my 5'1s, like go to 39 weeks. And I'm like, guys, because it's all out of their body. So it's like, they're just tipping. That's all that it is. Where us taller mamas, it's like, we have more torso room for them to live.
Yeah. They always hung real low. Like I was always surprised. Like my baby bump was always super low. So I don't know. I was also very small when I first got pregnant. Because gone through all of this, and I was like, this is going to be like, if this doesn't work, because we couldn't afford another round. I was like, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to at least be in the best shape of my life. So I was like running every day. I was like
for you.
looking great. And then I got pregnant with twins. Actually, one of the first things I told my husband when he called me on the phone and I was bawling my eyes out was just like, what's going to happen to my body? Because I had seen pictures of people with twins and I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But I carried him well, and I didn't get my first stretch mark until I was 37 weeks.
Wow.
I was so sad. I was like, why? Couldn't it have just held out one more week?
That's impressive.
Yeah, no, my body did like very well. It was very, like, I was like, yay. So
amazing.
Actually not as bad. I don't think my butt quite ever recovered. I always joke that
you don't see that, so you don't worry about it. That's that.
I always joke that I had a third one hiding out in my butt, and it's like, they're actually triplets.
Listen, more to sit on, more cushion. There you go. It was fine. I don't mind it. And then you breastfed for 2.5 years. How, from going from I wanted one, what the heck is going on, to tandem feeding?
What the heck? Feeding in the hospital.
Wow.
Like even the LC came in, like the head, what are they called?
Lactation consultant?
Yeah, but it was the head one, the one that like the
IBCLC.
Yes. Came in right before I was discharged, and she was like, I've been hearing about you for the last 2 days. Like, you're already tandem feeding, like you're doing great. Everybody says it. She's like, I think you're gonna be fine. I was like, okay. Little did I know that like those first 2 nights in the hospital, it was pretty easy because they were still like sleepy. And then the first night we got home, they were just like, no, feed all the time. Like, it was rough. I was like, I had to go to my front porch and cry for a little bit. I was just like, go step outside for a second. I was like, okay. So I just like sat on my front porch. I could hear them like crying, and I'm just like, oh, what's happening? But we got through it. Like the first couple of weeks were hard. I think like their mouths were so little. Like they were little babies, 6 pounds, 3 ounces, and baby B was 5 pounds. So it was a little bit of a discrepancy there, but they had the tiniest little mouths. And, I talked to an LC afterwards, and or it was actually my pediatrician, I think. And I told her what was happening. And she was like, yeah, honestly, give it like 10, 15 days and it'll start to get easier. And I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it. And
you just got to get through it. It's true. I say truth. I would say professionally that the first 6 weeks are the most challenging, but after that, it's literally nothing. Like if you could get through 6 weeks, you're just like done. Like it's second nature. Everybody's good. You're in the groove. But it's for those families that don't know that it's going to be a challenge, that think like, oh, everybody's just going to shoot out. I'm going to pop them on a boob and there we go. That's certainly not the case by any means. And this is where I hate social media, because you only see the good stuff and people are posting like, oh my gosh, they're not. Whereas an LC and me going to the hospitals and homes, it's more of the crying on the porch.
Yeah, it absolutely. I mean, I knew it was going to be hard. I didn't quite know how hard. Like, I remember telling my husband, I was like, this is why a lot of people don't breastfeed. This is exactly why. Like, if I didn't want this so badly, I would absolutely not be doing this. Like, so, but it was my choice to do it. Like, I was producing enough. And so I'm so proud of you to try. So.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm so excited that you got what you wanted, and it was a surprise awesomeness. And now you have your little girlies who are BFFs and are definitely taking care of you. I mean, that's it. They know how hard it is for you, but that's so wonderful. I'm so impressed by you guys, and I'm so happy that you said yes to this. So on behalf of everybody out there in Twiniversity world, sincerely, like honestly, Nicole, thank you very, very much for giving us some of your time.
Happy to be here.
Oh gosh. And for you guys out there in the Neverlands, just know that if you have questions for Nicole or I, you can email us at community@twiniversity.com, or you could slide into our DMs on any social platform. We're just Twiniversity, blah, blah, blah. We're nothing special. We're not hiding. And you could even, like, truthfully, my phone number is all over the freaking website. So if you really need something, just text me. It's not weird. I, like Nicole, do put my phone on silent when I go to sleep. So yeah, don't feel too bad if you're texting me at 4 a.m. like many moms do. That's it. I mean,
my mom hasn't even figured it out yet. She still will call me at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what do you want? She's like,
yes.
I'm like, yes, it's 4:00 in the morning.
She doesn't know. Oh, she's sorry. Then she'll say that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's
I
it.
just can't get the hang of this. She's like, I don't know why it was so much harder here than it is in Italy. I'm like, because we're like literally opposite.
Yes.
Like,
Literal. Well, yeah, I'll email you if we need anything. I'll be good like that. But yeah, guys, if you are on a base in Japan right now, or if you are literally in the middle of nowhere and think that you're alone, guess what? You're freaking not. We're always here. And don't forget, every second Tuesday of the month at 1:30, we have our monthly meetings. So you could always join us no matter where you are in the universe. That's the whole point of doing it virtually. And for the record, we've been doing that way before COVID. So we've always done that because we've been dealing with bed rest. So Twiniversity has always been a virtual fair heavy company because we always want to make sure that you guys know where we are. So if you need us for anything, if you have any questions, if you didn't want twins and you wanted a singleton, let us know too, chime in, because then that makes people like Nicole and I feel less isolated when we know that we weren't alone on this. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later, alligators, and catch you on the flip side.